Your summer. I want to open with a quote from author Veronica Roth. Sometimes crying or laughing are the only options left, and laughing feels better right now. So, good morning and welcome to the 3-hour face-to-face teacher evaluation support system training. I'm speaking for myself when I say that when we started this, it was seemed overwhelming. When we went back and compared this to our one-page most recent teacher evaluation form, overwhelming is an understatement. But then we came to a day where the administrators got together and had a one-day training, and we truly realized how in-depth this went. And so what we did then was the administrators at Farmington got together, and we set up a pacing guide, and we tried to hold ourselves accountable to that and say, X, Y, and Z we're going to get through with by these dates, and let's be prepared. Unlike teachers, administrators have to take a 6-hour test at the end of this to be certified evaluators. When we got together and started talking about that, there were some mixed emotions. Mr. Eccles started talking about retiring, and I cried a little. Then the horror stories started coming in that all over the state, people were failing the test. They'd gone through the training, they'd done everything they were supposed to, and they take a 6-hour test and fail it. And when you fail it, it's a 2-part test, but when you fail it, you have to start over. So then we were all stressed out, and we started going through it. And I think Kara was the first one to go through and take the test, and she passed. I was the last one to go, and I was a little bit worried. Especially after Mr. Eccles passed. I didn't want him to be able to hold that over my head. So luckily we all did pass on our first try. Now we're here to support you and help you through the process. The Framework for Teaching by Charlotte Danielson provides a foundation for Arkansas Teacher Evaluation Support System. You all should have a 3-ring binder that has teacher training at the bottom. If you'll take a look at this, I will walk you through the contents and we'll cover it in more detail as we go. Inside the front cover are sample question stems from the revised Bloom's taxonomy and sample of the Framework for Teaching. That outlines the 4 domains and the indicators of each. That should be inside the front cover. Then within that binder there are 5 tabs. The first tab is a PowerPoint law and process. This will cover the why, what, when, and who of TESS. The second tab is TESS teacher tracks. This is something that takes a little bit of time to understand, and we will look at it very closely here in just a little bit. The third tab is the Danielson 2011 rubric. Section covers all 4 domains and all indicators under each domain. It gives examples of unsatisfactory, basic, proficient, and distinguished for each of those indicators. And this is your rubric for teaching. This is what you will use before we evaluate. You'll look through this to see where you think you're at, and then that's what we'll use when we evaluate you. Professional growth. This plan comes with your goal, what steps you'll need to take to accomplish this goal, and a proposed timeline in which you will meet those goals. It's a little bit more thorough than the professional growth plan that we currently use. And the last one is the Ideas and Teachscape. It is steps to get to your online training through Ideas. And when you get back to your buildings, we'll take you a little bit more through that. But that is all for me. And at this time, please welcome for the first section. Here we go.
All right, I believe this PowerPoint is behind tab 1 if you want to follow along. We're going to talk a little bit about TESS and what it is and how we're going to get started. There are a few changes as far as dates and things that are on our PowerPoint that's been updated to the one that's been in your notebook. So if you just want to make note of those as we go through when you see those. All right, our training outcomes for today is to understand the TESS law and process. I know many of you have heard a lot about this already and have some understanding, but that is our goal today, is for you to leave here completely understanding what your summer training is going to be like and what you can expect. We're going to learn the modules through Teachscape, examine the resources for training, and acquire facilitation skills for teacher training. And the why behind this whole process, the current system evaluation provides little or no feedback to teachers. Inconsistency among districts across the state. Over 80% of districts in the state use checklists for their evaluation instrument, and the expectations are unclear. And that's what we have had for the past several years. It's basically just a checklist, but 80% of districts within our state are doing that same thing. Act 1209 of 2011 is a requirement, and the federal waiver from NCLB requirements. Under the ESEA flexibility, one of the requirements is to adopt an educator evaluation system. So that is part of why we are here today. This is just an example of a common instrument or rubric that teachers in the state have been evaluated under in the past. Like 3B, it says teacher uses appropriate questioning techniques and prompts and discussion, but it doesn't really give you any indicators as far as what does unsatisfactory look like, what does basic look like, or proficient or distinguished. You basically just got a check mark to where your administrator thought that you were. This is the new evaluation system. So you have the same target using questioning, prompts, and discussion, but then under each part of it, unsatisfactory, basic, proficient, and distinguished, it tells you what that should look like in order for you to score that. On the distinguished, we consider this kind of like your occasional vacation home. Sometimes you're going to be there, but we're hoping you're going to live at proficient. Visit distinguished from time to time. You know, some of you may fall into the basic on some things. You just really need to look and understand this rubric and what it means when we're coming in and we are looking for questioning, prompts, and discussion, what we're exactly looking for. You know, the goal is going to be proficient. Like I said, we hope to see you from time to time in distinguished on some of these categories, but you know, if you fall into basic or unsatisfactory, what that means is those are things that we really need to work on. That needs to be our focus in our areas of growth. In 2016 and 2017, when the school report cards come out, it will actually give the district's percentage of teachers that are distinguished, the percentage for proficient, basic, unsatisfactory. And that will be in the 2016-17 report card. All right, the what? Arkansas Teacher Excellence Support System. It's going to provide a transparent and consistent teacher evaluation system for public school districts and public charter schools. Support teachers' roles in improving students' educational achievements. And that's the whole purpose behind this. It's to directly impact student learning. Provide an integrated system to improve student learning that links evaluation procedures with curricular standards, professional learning activities, targeted support to encourage teachers in improving their knowledge and instructional skills, and inform policymakers regarding the benefits of a consistent evaluation and support system to improve student achievement across the state. And on this page we have a continuum. It's a developmental continuum that just kind of shows that all of these things directly affect and revolve around student outcomes. Who will be evaluated? Licensed teachers will be evaluated under this new system, including guidance counselors and media specialists. Teacher includes a non-licensed classroom teacher employed at a public charter school granted by the state board. Preschool teachers are not required to be evaluated, but a district or co-op can choose to include them in this evaluation system. Any administrator who evaluates teachers must pass the certification test. Bud was talking about that just a few minutes ago. Central office administrators must complete the training but are not required to test unless they also evaluate teachers. And I'll add that Ms. Strope joined us in this process of doing the training and taking the test with us, and we appreciate her support on that. All teachers are required to complete the training, but there is no assessment for you. Instructional facilitators, math literacy coaches may support teachers following formative observations by credentialed administrators. All right, in this next part, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Eccles.
Okay, this is the timeline, and you can see right now today, on June 3rd, we are at the 1.5 day training, and later on this morning and continuing on, you all will begin your training on the modules on the IDEAS website, and I think each building will go through those as we get you back over to the buildings later on. So we're going to have the half-day training today. The Teachscape modules are to be completed by August 13th of this year. So you've got this summer to do that and, you know, work at your leisure really to do it. But I think everybody in my building signed up to get done with it the next 6 days so they could actually start their summer vacation. So, summative evaluators of teachers must pass the certification test, and current evaluators must pass by December 31st of this year. I have a certificate. You're more than welcome to come check me out. I am certified. Thank you very much. Test anxiety and all, I made it. So. Here's where we are playing today, and then through August 13. And the Danielson frameworks using the IDEAS website that hopefully you've gotten in and logged on and signed up for that. And if not, we'll work you through that today when we get you back to the buildings. This test started with 11 schools during this past school year. These were the pilot schools. All schools will pilot tests during the 2013-2014 school year. This year coming up. The first full year of implementation is 2014-15. And then, as Stephanie said, data will be reported on the school performance reports in 2017. Training. How are we going to do this? Some of my folks have said, you know, they're going to work in groups. You can do it on your own, just whichever way works best for you. And but we're going to start that, have that available for you beginning today, and you know, utilize however your building principals come up with that. This is real important. Training for teachers. District decisions about training should be based on previous professional learning and/or a needs assessment and prior implementation of the Danielson framework. One thing to caution yourself with is, as you work through these, take the time to do it completely, each module from beginning to end. You know, don't get into it and go, okay, and skip over it. It'll come back and bite you. It truly will. So please, I think someone used the analogy the other day, you know, don't give yourself a lot of slack, because that slack can come back and you can hang yourself when you get into this. So take your time. We've got until August 13th. You know, quiet places are going to be available in my building at least, and I'm sure on every campus. You know, buildings are open 7:30 to 3:30, Monday through Thursday, and 7:30 to 11:30 on Fridays. And if you feel like you need to take advantage of coming to the school and sitting down in the lab or in your classroom with some of your colleagues, take advantage of it. Don't skip through these things. This is how we're going to implement these things. Performance ratings. And we touched on these: distinguished, proficient, basic, unsatisfactory. Proficient's great. Distinguished, everybody in here will visit that place some. Probably not going to want to buy a house there, but have a timeshare where you can go visit as you work through these and as you continue your career. I gave high school folks a rubric that was on the ADE website that I suggested to them. It's a self-evaluation tool, really, as you work through these modules. Look at the criteria, rate yourself, work on the modules, and then you've got a pretty good idea. And as we start this process in August, visiting with you, seeing what your self-eval looks like, that'll give us a starting point. Familiarize yourself with this program as we go. Each domain and a summative is scored. There's 3 tracks for the evaluation cycle, and that's in the handouts that you all have. And track placement is determined by summative ratings. And at this time, I will turn this over to Ms. Strupp. You get the muddy
Okay, I have the job of kind of explaining these tracks to you all and the 3-year cycle process. And it can get a little confusing, so just bear with me. On the tracks, we have track 1. Those are for your novice or probationary teachers. A novice teacher is someone that's coming to the district brand new out of college. That's a novice teacher. A probationary teacher, someone that has taught, but they haven't taught 3 years, or they're brand new to our district. Typically, someone that maybe they have 5 years experience and they come into our district, they're going to be in track 1 for a year, and then if they show that they can move on into track 2, then after that first year, their probationary period, they can move into track 2A. But track 1 is for your newer educators. Track 2, you have track 2A, 2B2, and 2B1. It's a 3-year cycle if you're in track 2, and the majority of people are going to be in track 2. Those are for your experienced teachers that are working to, as they have addressed specific need areas with their principal in their professional growth plan, they'll be working in those cycles to show improvement on their professional growth plan. I'll explain track 2 in more depth in just a minute. Track 3, that's your intensive cycle. That's if a teacher is not performing to the level at which we need for them to be or we expect them to be, they can be placed in track 3. Now, track 1 and track 2A, they both require a summative evaluation. That means that in those years that the teacher would be evaluated on all 22 components of the Danielson model. And so as you get in there and you work on your online training, you're going to see what those 22 components are and what is involved at each one of them. But for track 1 and track 2A, it is a full summative, all 22 components. Track 2B and 2B2 and 2B1, those are what we call our off years from the full summative. You have 2 years then where you are going to be observed, you're going to be evaluated, but your observations and your evaluation are more tied to the specific components that you have addressed in your professional growth plan. You might have 2 components. I really want to work in these 2 areas, and the principal is going to help you decide where you need to work based on student performance and the artifacts that you present at the end of the year in your, somewhat of a portfolio. I think all the principals have actually given you your placement, if you're a 2A or a 2B2 or a 2B1, is that correct? I need a few volunteers. I need 3 2As to come up here. Don't be shy. Come on. I need 3 2As. Y'all help me separate these. There's a 2A. There's a 2A. Just wait right here. I need one more. Thank you. I need 3 2B2s to come up here. Thank you. 2B2s. I need 3. Get them apart. Thank you. And I need 3 2B1s to come up here. Okay. I have 3 places in the room where I have paper up there with 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16. This represents the 3-year cycle that you will be on for your evaluation system, okay? If you're in track 2, I need this 2A, go stand right over by 13, 14. And I need a 2B2 to go stand beside her under 14, 15, or at 13, 14. Group up together. And a 2B1. Same thing right here. I need a 2A, 2B2, 2B1. And then in the back. I'm doing this so that you can see better, really. Okay. Just look at one of these groups that you can see the best on. And if you look at 13, 14, the upcoming school year, if you are a 2A, you're going to have a full summative evaluation, all 22 components in 13, 14, our pilot year. How many of you does that affect? So you know what's going to happen with you this coming year, correct? All right. If you are a 2B2 or a 2B1, in 13, 14, you're going to have a targeted evaluation in this coming year. You're going to develop your professional growth plan. You're going to have some observations, and you're going to then, your evaluation is tied to the components that you have put into your professional growth plan that you want to improve on. Okay, so it's a targeted evaluation, not a full summative. You may address 2 or 3 components, but it's between you and your principal what you end up putting in your evaluation plan. Does that make sense? And a 2B, okay, 2B2 and 2B1 both. All right, everybody move to the next year. If you, okay, I want, stand in order of 2A, 2B2, 2B1, please. All right, I had one off. All right, I want you to hand the poster to the person to your left. And then on the end, pass it back to the beginning. All right, so what happens to you if you are a 2A this coming year? What happens to you the next year? You become 2B1. All right, so you're going to have a partial the targeted evaluation in 14-15. If you are a 2B2, 2, what happens to you next year? Go to a full summative. All right. So without having to move, what's going to happen the next year? If you were a 2A this year, then you're going to move to the 2B track of 2 years, right? If you're a 2B1, you're going to move to a 2A next year. Then you go back to 2B. You're only going to have 1 year of the 3 in a 2A. I know this is confusing, and I'm going to give you, your principals will give you a piece of paper that actually shows how these tracks lay out, okay? And that will help you. I know it's confusing, but if you start out this coming year, 2A, the next year you're actually going to be a 2B2, then a 2B1, you're at the countdown, 2A in the 4th year. So you have a 3-year cycle, okay? All right, thanks y'all. Now let me just tell you a little bit Let me just give you a little bit about what is going to be expected of you in these cycles, okay? This is, you know, I feel like we got several different plans from several different districts and looked at what are they requiring of their people at a 2A and a 2B level, you know? And then we determined what we felt was going to be effective for our district. And remember, this is a pilot year. We're going to follow this year, and then we're going to make the decision for this after the end of this next year. Did we feel like the number of observations, the process that we've put into place, is it effective? Is it too much on the principals? Because you can imagine the amount of work that's going to be put on these principals with this evaluation system. So this is our pilot year, and we're going to determine, we're going to get feedback from you all, we're going to get feedback from our principals, and then we'll see what we need to do to go into full implementation the next year. But a novice teacher, if you are new to our district, or if you're in the probationary period, the first 3 years, or you're a track 1, and between August to September, you're going to complete that self-assessment that Mr. Eccles talked about, and you're going to develop your professional growth plan. And then your teacher's mentor, if you're a brand new novice teacher, you're going to have a mentor, and then that person is going to provide support to you in each of those components, all 22 that you have to be evaluated on. There will be at least one informal observation by the end of September in your classroom. Informal, they're just going to pop in. Then there's a form that you will fill out after the fact. And then there will be at least one walkthrough observation each quarter. So each 9 weeks there will be at least one walkthrough. But somewhere between October and March, you're going to have at least one formal observation conducted in your classroom. You'll fill out paperwork before, you'll conference before, you'll have the observation, you'll conference after, paperwork filled out after. It's pretty detailed. And then at mid-year, you're going to have a progress report, basically. You're going to evaluate the progress of your professional growth plan with your principal. And then you're going to the principal will then conduct any additional observations, meetings with the teacher as necessary. Okay, so that's track 1. Somewhere in March and April in track 1, you're going to have a summative evaluation, and that is where you will sit down with your principal and you will go through all 22 components, and they will, from domains 2 and 3, the evidences will be there from the observations they conducted in your classroom. For domains 1 and 4, you're going to be collecting some evidences that you will take to your principal. And you will always have the opportunity to discuss areas with your principal before that actual score is given. Now, if you are a probationary teacher, if you're in track 1 and your principal decides this is not working, we're not cutting it, you can be sent to track 3 at any time during the year. But they would have given you some guidance and formative type help before that would ever happen. All right, you're track 2, and you're a 2A, sorry, full summative. You're going to have your professional growth plan completed that previous spring, because if you're a 2A, you've been here. Then when test data comes in the summer, you will reevaluate what your professional growth plan is, because growth is going to be a component of teacher evaluation. Now, for the pilot year, growth will not be. We will not address growth at all. The Department of Education is looking throughout the next year. They're studying to determine how to determine growth in some of these non-tested areas, which we have many of. And once they come up with some information for us, then that will be put into place for the following year. Then, using that professional growth plan, there might be some changes in instruction that you will put into place for that next year. And you'll complete your self-assessment, and then your principal will have at least one informal observation by the end of September. And then there'll be at least one walkthrough each semester. They don't necessarily have to come into your room every quarter, but they will be somewhere in the semester. They'll do a walkthrough to follow up on that informal and see if progress is being made on anything you wanted to work on. And on track 2A, it's the same thing. There's going to be a formal between October and March with all that goes with it. Mid-year review of your professional growth plan, and then any additional observations, and then your full summative somewhere between March and April. All right, if you're a 2B, whether it's 2B1 or 2B2, you will have your professional growth plan that you have developed at the end when you did your summative the year before, and you'll do that self-assessment. And then as you look at growth data and everything that goes with that from test data that we receive back, you will make any adjustments in your professional growth plan that you need to. And then there will be at least one walkthrough during that semester. One of the big differences in 2B2 is you will not have a formal evaluation. You will have an informal, but you will not have a formal. So somewhere between October and January, you're going to have at least one informal, and then you'll have your mid-year review of your professional growth plan, and then any additional observations that your principal sees as necessary. And then the summative, your targeted summative review will be somewhere between March and April. Track 3, we don't expect for our teachers to have to visit this area much, but there is on occasion a need, and if there is ever a need, it will involve, it's pretty intense, an intensive growth plan will be completed, and then it will guide the principal's observations. And you'll complete a self-assessment, and then one informal each month, for an informal each month. There will be at least one walkthrough each quarter, and there will be at least one formal each semester. That's a part of an intensive track. The monthly reviews of your intensive growth plan to see how you are progressing, and then any additional observations as necessary, and then your summative evaluation, meaning over all 22 components, would be conducted in April to evaluate that intensive growth plan and how you've progressed. So as you can see, that intensive growth area, track 3, there's a lot to it. If you think about just the newer people and then your 2As, the job that your principals are going to have next year, it's going to be a big load on them, so be patient with them. I know that as you move along, there will be questions about this, and just your principals will be able to help you in any way, and I'm here if you need any answers as well. Okay? I'm going to pass it on to Kara now.
The next part is going to talk a little bit about the professional growth plans. Terry mentioned them several times. Everyone will have a professional growth plan. The professional growth plans are to be developed by you, the teacher, and the administrator together based on summative ratings. Thinking about the peer assessments and all will go hand in hand in doing that. These are very important. It's the foundation of all teachers' growth. We've done professional growth plans in the past, so it's very similar. Those of you that pulled your data, looked at your data, you saw lots of growth and you had targeted areas. So it's not going to be something that's totally new. But if you'll turn to the tab in your book that says Professional Growth Plans, or PGPs, you'll see the state gives us a sample. And these samples are really good to give us some ideas. But you'll see at the top, in that area of the sample, you'll find the problem of practice. Once again, these will be based on areas of need, of support. Once again, created by you, the teacher, and the administrator. Those of you who've been to PLC and are headed to PLC, you've talked a lot about SMART goal formats, and you'll continue to talk about SMART goal formats. You can see on there, that's how it's going to be written, your goal. That's also based on your ACSIP, because we know ACSIP is what we're doing in the building. Then you'll choose your framework. On the sample that is in your book, it should have 3B and 3C. Those are two of the criterias. In the third, I call them domain because I get them back and forth from Pathwise. Those of you that know Pathwise, this is going to look just basically like that, or have been through the practice 3 in the last little bit. It'll look very similar. It's all the same work by Charlotte Danielson. If you flip over that page to the next side, it's going to talk a little bit about implementation strategies. What is it that you're going to do to implement your plan? It gives you some samples, attend certain trainings, maybe read some professional magazines or books. What is the result going to look like once you do this? What will it look like whenever I go to this training and bring it back and implement in my classroom? What are the expectations for the students? And then over at the far right, it talks about sources of data to monitor. These are evidence and artifacts. I don't want you to get overwhelmed either by thinking of artifacts. There are going to be things that you need to pull together for them, but all 22 criteria, I don't think it's going to be necessary that you have to find an artifact for every single one. Artifacts are going to be important for those areas of growth, the areas that you need to improve on. Those are going to be things that you're going to search or show or say, hey, Kara, I do this. Here's some artifacts. Let's talk about this. I think you'll find that these professional growth plans and this whole system, even though it may seem overwhelming right now, it's going to be so beneficial. Because if you look at TESS and what TESS stands for, it stands for Teacher Excellence and Support System. It doesn't say Teacher Evaluation. It says Teacher Excellence, helping us all be better to help our students be the best that they can be, and that's our goal. And if you look at the next sample in there, it's a professional timeline. It's a timeline to go along with the professional growth plan. You do not have to have something in every single month, as you can see. Like in October, they put something there, and then they're going to work on those goals for the next few months. So that's a little bit about the professional growth plans. Once again, they are very important. These will be from year to year and what you're going to focus on, or what we're going to focus on for growth. Once again, I feel like I'm holding this wrong. Anyway, elimination of one size fits all. Everyone's going to have the professional growth plan to help them meet their needs. Some of you, it may be that you need it to help plan. You might be able to carry out a great lesson, but we've got to think about some of the kids that maybe aren't where they need to be, and how can we help them to differentiate to help them in the classroom. Or maybe just classroom management might be yours. Everybody in the building doesn't always have the same areas that they need to improve on, so this allows growth for everyone. I mentioned a little bit about the artifacts, domains 1 and 4, offstage evidence. Basically what that means is 1 is going to be your planning and pre-planning. That doesn't happen in the classroom. You plan before. That's going to have to be artifacts that come before everything else. Domain 4 is your professionalism, things that you do, the things that you reflect on, different things like that you will pull together. That's offstage evidence. The things that don't happen directly in the classroom. Domains 2 and 3, those are your classrooms, dealing with your rapport, your meeting objectives and teaching objectives and questioning. Those are things that are going to be observed in your classroom. There are times that for certain criteria you will pull artifacts for those as well, but basically 1 and 4 is outside of the classroom, 2 and 3 is going to be in the classroom. Once again, when we talk about artifacts, I said we may not sit down and say, oh, 1A, 1B, 1-3, or 1C, whatever. You don't have to have an artifact for every single one. We're going to look at growth areas. So that's what it's relating to, is quality, not quantity. Just because you bring me a stack of papers that looks like that doesn't mean that it's what we need. We need to think what's going to be beneficial and help us see the growth of the students. Mr. Lucky is going to pull up in just a bit the ADE website where there are samples of things, and you'll see that there are samples of artifacts, and I do believe they were in the front of your notebook as well, some different artifact samples or things that you might include in your professional growth plan. Summative evaluations and scoring. Once again, it's completed by a credentialed licensed administrator, basically meaning once we've gone through the tests and then taken the 6-hour test, that's what the credentialed is. Summative evaluations require a rating in each domain and an overall rating. So all 22 of those criteria, you will get a rating plus an overall rating in each of the 4 areas. We mentioned earlier also, growth measures are part of the summative rating. Those will come as we continue down this road. Summative evaluations and scoring. An observation is to be at least 75% of the classroom period or at least 45 minutes of a block schedule class. They'll require a post-conference, and a reflective narrative for professional growth should follow the observation. So once we do an observation, we will meet afterwards to discuss and talk about what went on in the classroom. Once again, your new professional growth plan should be developed based on these things by you and your principal. And at the bottom, it says the summative observation over all 22 components is not necessary in the interim appraisal process of 2B1 or 2B2 tracks. So that helps bring out, once again, what Terry was talking about. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you all. And remember that this is not a gotcha. This is helping all of us become better educators and also our students to be more successful. It's not a gotcha. It's to help us think through the whole teaching process. All right, Julia. Let me hold your stick.
Hold my stick. First thing I'm going to do is tell my teachers not to panic. I messed up on the 2Bs. So to be or not to be, we'll figure that out later. Don't panic. There is someone here today. I'm just going to take a quick break and then we're going to stand up for just a second. But I want to introduce our new high school principal, Mr. John Purefoy. If you'll come up here for a second. We did not throw him under the bus and require him to do a big portion of this morning. But we're so thankful he's here. We're excited. So you can all lay eyes on him for just a quick second. Not to embarrass you, though. Okay. And now you're going to kind of be my guinea pig. All right. You might have to take your glasses off, though. All right. The part I'm going to talk about a little bit this morning is growth. And so I just want you to know that the state is a little unclear on what they're going to do with growth, so we've kind of decided this is what we're going to do. We're going to measure you here and make a little line on the wall. For all the teachers that are grades 4 through 8, and those are for sure going to be measured for growth. But can you turn this way? Yeah. For everybody else, we're not really sure yet, so we're going to kind of measure this way, and this way, and then this way. So, where'd my microphone go? Basically, we are going to all be measured for growth at some point. But growth will not be measured the next school year, the 13-14 school year. The 14-15 school year, the 14-15 school year, there will be identified area for being able to measure growth from standardized testing and from other forms of testing. Teachers who do not meet the identified threshold of growth cannot receive a distinguished rating. So again, we want to grow, we want to continue to grow, we want our students to grow, but there will be some accountability for this, and so we want to make sure that you understand that if your growth area is not being met, that you can be moved down in the rating system. Teachers not meeting the threshold of growth for 2 consecutive years will be lowered 1 performance rating. The current models being reviewed will apply to grades 4 through 8, math and literacy, and algebra 1. But there are a lot of other decisions that are still in the process of being made for co-teaching, for teachers that are on extended leave, and then the types of growth measures used for the non-tested areas. So everyone is going to have some accountability for growth. We're just not 100% certain in the state of Arkansas where that's going to fall. The AD is working with a Teacher Evaluation Advisory Committee, or the TEAC Committee, to consider alternative measures of student growth, and the state will continue to collect information from emerging systems from other states to learn their successes and their concerns. So we want you to be aware of this. We don't want it to be something that you're panicked about. We want you to do the very best you can, and all of us are going to be focusing and supporting you as you grow, but just kind of wanted you to be aware of some of the things that will be coming. And I think that's my last one. You guys want to stand up for a quick second? Let's take about 3 minutes to stand up and stretch.
I'm Terry Lakey. I'm one of the new professional teacher evaluators. Oh, no. And I'm going to wind things up. We're going to look at some forms, but I also have this. I got the short straw, and I have to pass out the quiz that you have to pass before you can leave this room. No. It is an information sheet, and we do need everybody to take one, fill it out, and turn it into your building principal when you leave. They'll be up here on this front table. But we are going to walk through some of the forms now. You've already seen the professional growth form, but we will look at some of the other ones. Before we do that, and to finish out the slides, I'm one of those people who has to finish what we start. We're on page 14 there. Implementation, considerations, immediate need, training everyone. Duh, here we are. TESS requires systematic, continuous professional learning opportunities for everyone, not just a one-time event. Consider this the start of your professional development for the rest of your career, because this is going to kick off how you make the decisions on what you're going to be choosing for your flex days in the future. As you look at your professional growth model, you're going to examine that. You're going to say, these are the things that I need to choose as I'm looking at what to take during the summer. And then we will try and help you out as we're scheduling our professional development in our schools at the start back of school. Obviously, we have to meet state guidelines, but we will also be trying to help you with what you need on your professional growth plans. And then for those schools, show of hands, any of the schools that have not done a book study? Good, because that would have taken up a whole lot of your summer, wouldn't it? Okay, so there's that. Now let's go to the ADE website. As we look at these forms, do please remember that these are the state forms, and we are altering these to suit our own needs, and hopefully we'll be able to put them into a format that they'll also be interactive as well. So please pull up the pre-conference questions form. As you look at these forms, please keep in mind, they're not all going to be for everybody, but look at the labeling on these. They always include the tracks, track 1, 2A, track 3. Who got left out of this one? The 2Bs, 2B1, 2B2s, okay? And so these are things that questions that can be answered that are pre-conference. You can fill this out, bring it to the pre-conference with your building principal. Now, going back to our list, I'm not going to go over these questions. You're going to live with them from now on. So, and we look at the next three forms that are there. And we think, oh man, self-assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment. Please pull up the self-assessment. Slow computer. But lo and behold, they're all the same form. As you look at it, self-assessment, you just check that box. Formative assessment, same. Summative assessment, same. And then as we scroll down to the bottom of this, and you notice that, well, before you scroll, backing up, he can't see me. I don't know why I raised my arm. You see we've got the tracks also there, probationary, experienced, to A, B, and intensive. Doesn't the word intensive bother some of us? Hopefully it won't affect any of us, but it bothers us. Now we're scrolling. Scrolling. 22 of these. He'll get there to the bottom in a minute. Now I'm dizzy. Whoa. Okay, scroll up just a bit. More. Now there you go. Now, you see that we had this, the summative scoring report there. Domain 1, Domain 2, Domain 3, Domain 4. And then, after you've worked out how each of the domains was rated, you got to look at that, combine it with your growth model ultimately, and then put an X in one of those 4 slots that you see there by unsatisfactory through distinguished. But it also gives you an opportunity to list some things, summary of commendations, those things that you really did well and you want to bring those to the attention. Recommended areas of growth, these are perceived areas of weakness, things that you need to work on, things that will find their way on your professional growth form, and then expectations. Those things that can be, might be comments from both sides of the desk, from either the teacher or the principal. Okay. That wasn't good. Nope. I think you need to bounce out of there and go back and find the forms. There we go. ADE. I always blame this on pilot error. Scroll up. Red arrow above TESS. There we go. That wasn't good. See where it says TESS? There we go. And now, wait a minute. No, that isn't it. You click one box wrong, and here we go. Click on TESS. Now click the arrow. Now go to the forms. TESS evaluation forms. And just like that, we're back. Post-conference questions. And next time we'll use that back arrow up there. Okay, how would you describe today's lesson? This is just a review of after your observation. And you're sitting down with the teacher, or I'm sitting down with the teacher, or one of the other principals sitting with the teacher, and we're asking these questions. Again, you see the tracks listed up there, and some are left out, obviously. Back arrow now. Okay. Let's go to the intensive growth plan. Y'all saw an example of the professional growth that was regular. This is the intensive one. There's not a lot of difference when you're looking at it, but there are distinct differences. First page looks exactly the same, doesn't it? Scrolling down. Scrolling. Okay. Second page, the same. Scrolling down. Now we start getting into some differences. Steps needed to ensure successful implementation of this growth plan. And then a list of these things. On the front end, when you're first... Where did you put your stick, Julia? Thank you. Where'd we go? Scroll back up a little. Here we go. That's good. Whoa. Okay. Obviously, your proposed completion dates, those will be filled in as you're working on the plan to work with. And then some of the rest of this, revised completion date, as you're working through it, you don't make the first date, the proposed date, what your target date, then you'll make changes there, and then a place for comments. Now, you notice that there's not a lot of room in here. That's where I'm hoping that the interactive part comes into play. So you're on the site, you've got to type in 3 paragraphs, it's not going to fit here. Or it's not going to fit over here in the comment section as well. So the interactive, if we can make these interactive, it will really be helpful. Now you're scrolling down. That'll work. And then these areas for notes, also an interactive zone where you can actually put quite a bit of information in there on the interactive forms. Okay? And you see that there's this place to visit, PGP revisit date, PGP revisit date. Scrolling down. He couldn't hear that either. I don't know why I did that. Okay, and so again, at the end of it, a reflection area. What were my successes? What are some of the remaining and or additional areas to be addressed to enhance my professional growth? And what have I learned to impact my future instructional practices? One of the things that I like about this system, it does have built-in automatic reflection. And of the things that I believe about adults and learning is most of what we're going to learn and carry forward is what we will bring out of our reflection on whatever it is we're considering. What you're getting here this morning, it'll be what you reflect on later on that'll mean the most to you. Okay, let's go to the next form. Backing up. Pre-summative evaluation questions. You look at that first question, and I pulled this up for the first question. Are there other artifacts reflecting your growth during school year to submit prior to the final conference? And this is what you're going to utilize when you're trying to decide, hey, I had some weaknesses. I need to address those. I have collected these artifacts. These are things I want to make sure I get into my plan. These are some things that... So you're going to look at this form, and you're going to bring these things with you, but you're going to tell the principals on the front end, these are some of the things I'm bringing. So this can be a very important form for you. Some of you, not so much. Okay, backing out. Scrolling down. Examples of artifacts. Hmm? Hmm? I didn't give you that. Oh, I've been told to hurry up. I can do that. Okay, should this be considered an exhaustive list of artifacts? Anybody have one, a personal favorite you're going, can't wait to show up with this artifact, and it's not on the list? Okay, so don't think of this as a be-all, end-all list, but it is a group of suggestions. And if you're sitting there going, what should I do for an artifact? This may be one of the places you start. Okay, going back to the form. And it's for each domain. We didn't scroll through it, but we're running out of power, I'm told. Okay, there's a glossary. Glossary. There we go. Anytime you introduce a new system, there's going to be new terminology, and this will explain it all for you. So if you go, I wonder what you're talking about there, go to the glossary. Backing up. Now, one of the things that I want to go ahead and point out here, the timelines, this is the state timeline. Don't live or utilize these timelines. Go by the information we're giving you, because we've altered it to suit ourselves. That doesn't sound good. So, scroll down a little more. That wasn't it. May I have a round of applause for our helpful person in the back? Okay, I'm going to suggest to everyone that when you pull this up the first time, go ahead and make a shortcut onto your desktop so that you can visit this as needed. There was another, as he was refining his location, and you saw the little test forums, and then above that were two other sites. Okay, one of them was the administrator's test site. You're welcome to go there and look, see what they're telling us too. It won't give you anything you're not going to get somewhere else. So don't think it's a magical area that you can't go to. Also, you'll notice as you go into your training, as you get back to your schools, that there's a nice intro video from Danielson, and you'll probably get the opportunity to watch that. So, reminders before you leave. Everybody needs to leave here with one of these forms. It's short. And then it's about 10 till 10. So everyone should be back at your buildings by 10 after 10. 10:15? Oh, 10:15. They've decided to go 5 minutes longer. There we go. So by 10:15, you should be at your schools, and the balance of the 3 hours will be completed there. What? I'm being told computer labs for some of the schools at RGLMS. We're going to meet